All right. Happy Halloween, everyone. Happy Day of the Dead. If you happen to be watching this the next day, we'll be covering a little bit of both today. We're going to be looking at looking at messages from the other side. It was what really won here, kind of going from the veil to see messages from the departed. We're also going to be focusing on places in our life where we can let go of things, where there's sort of this opportunity for death and rebirth. So I actually think the Halloween show for me, I'm going to put Apollo down and I'll let you see my shirt, which I have on, which is sort of themed for the holiday. I think this is one of my favorite holidays as a reader, not only because we're kind of embracing things like death and rebirth, but also because energetically, it's really fun to kind of tap into the energy right now. It's easier to read. And I think it's a really important time for us. So let me show you this shirt. A family member got this for me. Everybody's represented here. It's all kind of like skulls. So really fun photo here, a really fun t-shirt here that somebody got me. So you get to enjoy that today. That's my costume. I decided to show up as me, but kind of like represent the whole zodiac for you. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about what's in store today. And then we'll get into the messages. And the fun part here in just a few moments here, we're going to take a look at the reading. And because you want me to focus on messages from the departed, I'm really going to be focusing on a lot of the deep past messages that will come through when we look at the Celtic cross. And I'll probably deviate today a little bit from the norm on certain parts of that Celtic reading. So I'll just kind of let Spirit lead the way when we go through that. But as always, I have some channeled messages here in front of me that I'll be sharing with you. And the channeled messages come from dreams, meditations, and also research. This morning, I was looking up a myth about, gosh, I hope I say the name right. I think it's Mictecsuatl. I think that's it. There's this sort of really cool Aztec goddess of the dead that kind of is connected to Day of the Dead. And that kind of will help us a little bit on finding parts of ourself that we need to focus on kind of like releasing and also creating. So again, this to me is very much a portal type day, a chance to let go of things and a chance to step into new things. The way that it's going to be organized is the beginning portion. It's going to be those channeled messages. Then we'll look at a 7-day forecast because this is a weekly. And I always like to look at that. Instead of blessings and blocks, maybe it'll be like trick or treat, the sort of tricky elements and the treat again. So that's the blessings would be the treats. So I might just rename it for today. And the elemental breakdown. And then the special topic again today, focusing on messages from the other side, kind of moving into the energy of the veil and looking at what our departed want us to know. And the meditation today will also be focusing on making peace with those who have passed. And also for those of you that may be lucky and there's nobody that you know that's kind of passed away, this can also be kind of making peace with old parts of yourself, because there can be symbolic or sort of like these energetic deaths that happen to us. It doesn't have to be the loss of life. So today is going to be very special, and I'm glad you joined me. It looks like we have a lot of people here already, so welcome. All right, let me just set things up here a little bit, and then we'll get started. I have two moderators today helping out, Maria and Dakota. So if there's any questions that you have, either of those two folks can point you in the right direction and answer any sort of high-level questions that you have. I'm also going to put a link to my website in case you need some more information that they don't have a chance to answer. Almost everything should be right there. So I'll pin that to the top and just say thanks. Also, I've already noticed some folks have joined or given super chats. At the very end today, I'll try to read through and acknowledge everyone that does that. Just a quick note that one thing that you can do for all the weeklies if you decide to join is you can vote. And I'm going to have a Q&A. I've decided it'll be this upcoming Friday. I'll announce the schedule for everything on Monday the 1st. But Friday, I'm going to do an FAQ, not an FAQ, but like a Q&A rather, where you can submit some questions if you're a channel member or a Patreon supporter. So that's another perk with that. And again, thanks to everybody and welcome. Big thanks to Regina right there. I just noticed that. I appreciate you. Okay, so all that being said, let's get into the messages for today. I would be remiss not to bring up some special totems today. We're going to be looking at a couple of things here, including marigolds, which seemed appropriate for today. And we'll also be taking a look at pumpkins, in particular jack-o'-lanterns. But we're going to focus quite a bit on the marigold at the beginning because, you know, I like to work with a spirit totem. And marigold's a really important plant right now for, I think that's what you see right now. It's going to be pumpkins and marigolds, basically. So you'd have a hard time not seeing either of these. And that's what was in my mind. So we're going to start again with marigolds. And for those of you that aren't familiar with them, they have a very pungent smell and very beautiful and bright. And the interesting thing is they are not the strongest of flowers. They are an annual. And when the frost comes, these are one of the first plants that would probably go. So there's this sort of fragility, and there's joy. There's this beautiful sort of, bright brilliance to it, almost like the sun, but they're also very fragile. And I think that's part of the reason that they were chosen as a symbol for this particular celebration, is that vibrancy of life, but the fragility of life as well. So couple of fun facts before we get too much into that symbology. In gardening, they're actually quite beneficial. I've talked about this particular totem before. You can plant them next to certain types of vegetables to help repel insects, or sometimes certain insects will eat them and not the other plants. So they have this sort of protective energy about them, which is great. Aztec culture used them as magical, medicinal, and sort of also for religious purposes. And as I dug into the symbology here, they have that attractive force, and also that they can either attract or protect, depending on what you're trying to kind of get with that symbol. And like I said, they can be joy, life, celebration, but also the fragility that in a moment, everything can change. So it also is kind of a symbol for you to kind of break it down on why it should come through for you, to really be present in today, in this moment. I remember when I was a student a while ago, you would always focus on, even if you think of like when we were all kids, you couldn't wait to graduate. Then you graduate and you think, well, this isn't everything that I thought it would be. You go to college and you learn a lot, and then you get out into the real world. Or if you go to a trade school or something, whatever you're learning, you get trained, and then when you actually put it to practice, it's not quite what you think. In the moment, right here and right now, this is ostensibly the most important moment of your life. As you kind of go through it every day, every moment, there's something magical, there's something to be embraced. And this is a reminder to kind of drink in that, because everything can change tomorrow. And this is a good day, and that's something to focus on. The other thing that I really liked about this is a plant that you would kind of even want at a wake, sort of because of the joy. I think that's again why they chose this. So it's almost like embracing or celebrating this journey between death and rebirth. So for any of you, I've had this happen to me. It was a while back before my 2 corporate jobs, but I used to do a lot of freelance work. And I remember being laid off once. This time of year, it was right near Thanksgiving time in the US. So a week or 4 from now or something like that. And I just got a text while I was with family, and I thought, okay, after this holiday, I don't know what I'm going to do for a job, but I'll figure it out. I was actually kind of relieved too, because I wasn't happy where I was at. So sometimes these sort of like losses or releases come through to free us. And so if there has been anything that came and went in your life, if you can look at the blessing of now that there's sort of this opening for something new, that can maybe help you. Specifically when it is a material object or a job, it's a lot easier. When it's a person or a relationship, obviously that's going to be a little bit more difficult and have a sort of different energy of release. But sometimes those things that we think we need or think we want so much, once they're gone, all of a sudden we have this sort of opening happening. So the big thing that's coming through right now is to release a part of yourself and almost have a wake or a celebration that you made it to this point, that you're going to make it through that next point. And knowing that the act of releasing something is actually attractive, rather than holding on to something like the 4 of Pentacles, where it's like, this is as good as it gets. Keep thinking like, I'm ready for more. I'm open to more things. This won't be the end. Thinking in those affirmative ways is going to help you quite a bit. And then again, apologies for mispronouncing this name. If you look at the spelling, it's Aztec and it's difficult, but I wrote it out phonetically. I think it's Mictecasiwatl, something like that, or Mictecasiwat, I think is what it is actually. Anyway, she is a goddess of the dead, kind of like what we would see with like Hades' wife, if you will, in like Roman or Greek mythology. She was sacrificed as a baby and grew to adulthood magically in the underworld. So we have this inner child, or this small sort of child energy that on the other side was able to flourish. And to me, this also represents like for us, maybe a loss of innocence It can also be a loss of a piece of ourselves that we didn't have a chance to develop. So if you had a parent, a teacher, a sibling, or someone in your life that simply wasn't ready or willing to allow you to be your authentic self, this little child that kind of had to grow up on the other side instead of here represents that disconnect that some of us had to do. So sometimes it's because, again, your parents didn't want you to go down a certain career path, love a certain type of person, express yourself in a certain way, whatever it is, wherever that authentic part of you got fractured. This particular goddess comes through again to remind us that we can always come back from that. In fact, for her, a death was a beginning. And so we're looking at a symbolic death, not a literal death. So symbolic death, a loss of something, or again, sort of like a loss of time or anything like that. We always have the chance to reincarnate, reimagine, have a rebirth for our own self, right? So this is your chance to do that. Think of something in your life, and this is something that we can powerfully kind of put later in the meditation, but what part of you were you not allowed to have fun with? Were you not allowed to play with a certain type of toy, wear a certain color, whatever it was? We all have something, or more specifically, as you get older, we still have kind of like an inner child where you want to do something, but maybe your partner thinks this isn't practical or this won't work. So there's a part of you that wants to express itself. And this particular moment in time gives you a chance for you to figure out how you're going to express it and how you're going to nurture that and bring it back into fruition. That part of you deserves love and nurturing, and you can reclaim that gift or that dream that you had. It's still there. It's still alive. The dream is still alive. Step into that part of yourself and nurture it. You haven't lost it. For those of you that are like artists and you've maybe taken a road down a practical path and you wonder, can I still, write or sing or, sculpt or whatever it is that you used to do? The answer is yes. You just have to step back into that energy. And I was watching a clip of, it's really interesting how, especially like our spiritual path or the thing that we really train ourselves in, we never lose it. Again, I was watching something with Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, and he's working through dementia right now. And so he has a hard time maybe having a conversation, but the minute the piano plays, it all comes through because he did that for years. It's ingrained. It's part of his soul. So he can still sing. He can still connect. He can still phrase the musical sort of the embellishments that he does. And he didn't lose that part of himself, but he can't have a conversation like we are. So that artistic side, that soul part of him is strong and it's burning bright, even as, the body or the mind is sort of deteriorating. So that inner part of you, that inner flame, up until the very end will be burning strong. So all you have to do is kind of tap into that a little bit. And just like him, you can still make the music. It was kind of like a very uplifting thing that I saw. You can Google it and you'll see that he has this sort of gift right now to kind of still connect to that. And I think that's really cool. So those are the messages from Marigold, basically that totem, which is life, joy, and the sort of fragility of life, and then the ability to kind of like recreate or reimagine yourself. So you're only as lost as you let yourself be. You're only as stuck as you allow yourself to be. Everything about today is death and rebirth. So if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're stagnating, let it go and just try something new. Okay. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was, of course, jack-o'-lanterns. I have a couple of artificial ones behind me, but I did a little bit of research on this. I mean, this is the most common symbol, I think, here in the US. So if, other parts of the country, that's why I wanted to highlight the marigolds, because I think if you're in Mexico, you're going to see that everywhere, and probably skeletons as well. But here, the jack-o'-lanterns are a little bit more common. So I looked at it just sort of as a symbol, first and foremost, as a way to see light in the dark. It's literally a lantern. So, I mean, we're putting, we're carving out a fruit or vegetable here and putting stuff in it, but it's basically a candle in the dark. And to me, that reminds me exactly of the hermit. And so in this period of time, sometimes I would say things get really challenging just before that breakthrough, just before the hermit kind of steps into the star energy or really embraces its inner light. So for you, you may be either right on that shift where things are starting to get brighter, or you could be in a moment where you're thinking, wait, I've done all of this work and it just got more challenging. So the hermit holds up the light, goes within and finds that inner power and that inner strength and shines brighter, even if everything around him or her is dark, right? So that's one message that I got from this. And it also just helps you see your own potential. So sometimes when things fall away, when things get dark or tricky or shadowy around you, all of a sudden you really find the power that you always had, right? But maybe you didn't have the push or the opportunity to express or explore it. So no matter how challenging something is or may seem right now, the message here is that you have the power, you have the light. Lean into that, okay? I did a little bit of research on the origin of Jack-o'-lantern. There is this sort of character Jack. Based on the different myths that I was reading, he had several encounters with the devil and would continue to trick the devil. It looks like after all this is done, he was neither welcomed in heaven or hell. He's kind of like the spirit that wanders. But kind of taking the energy of the devil energy and the deals, which is something that we want to look at. I want you to be really mindful here this next week ahead of looking at contracts, agreements, and also releasing things that aren't fair. So avoid contracts that are unreasonable or unfair, renegotiate if you need to, get that red marker out and highlight what doesn't make sense. And then also, I talk a lot about Seven of Swords being very similar to the devil energy because it's the lie that we tell to ourselves. And for those of you that are overachievers, it can be over-promising and under-delivering. So you really want to err on the side of being very transparent, very realistic, and simply saying no to something that doesn't feel right for you. Not today, El Diablo, not today. And also don't try to trick the devil. So if there's the way that we could kind of translate this into everyday terms is, let's say you are managing up. You have a boss that is just doesn't have the skills, not very capable, but you're trying to cover up or trying to manage up to that. It would be better to not be sort of trying to trick that person or to try to lift them up all the time. Find help or let that be exposed, because sometimes that has a way of kind of coming back at you. In relationships, if you're with someone that's sort of tricky, whether it's a friend or a lover or a partner in business, best to sever that tie or to bring into light what's not working than to try to outfox a fox. And that's basically what I'm seeing here, is that it's better to either fix that broken situation or find something better, because little tip, you never win with the devil. You never win. It's just not a good thing to kind of connect with. So if that symbol kind of gets intermixed with something, it's not smart. So I want you to look at something and trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. Okay. Also, just being very transparent and honest. This is the elixir. This is the anti-venom to what we're seeing here. So if you're honest, if you're clear, if you go above like letter of the law and everything, and you're just very honest, things will be okay on this. Just don't try to get away with stuff, and don't let someone else try to get away with stuff. And that's going to be the key to success over this week. When we look at the 7-day forecast and the elemental breakdown, which I'll do here in a few moments, we'll get a little bit more fine tuning on that, but that's the high level messages right now. Also, when I think about a jack-o'-lantern, it's very much like a mask. You're carving into it some sort of like artificial face. And so I think for many of you, there could either be a revelation, someone showing their true face, their true colors. There could also be a chance for you to release the mask. And one of the tarot decks that I was kind of looking at, possibly, I was trying to buy one for today, but it didn't get delivered. So we'll be using my existing ones. But there was actually this really cool card where I think the devil was just a mask. And I think I've seen that in even some of my other decks. So removing the mask or revealing the true self is going to be really important. Okay. So let's move on to some things that I actually got in dreams for you. This next piece is a little bit tricky, and I'm going to do my best to break it down for you. But what I saw was a relationship that had the energy of, it felt kind of like there was a codependency or an addictive sort of piece to it. And the addiction kind of can take many different energies. It's not just about being addicted to substances. Sometimes we can be addicted to people or the sort of attention that we get from people. So that's the codependent piece. And for this sort of energy of addiction, what I was getting was it was necessary to create some space and reclaim your power. And when you're out of their energy and out of their projections, it's going to be a lot easier for you to figure out who am I? Who are you? Like, what's the difference? Where do you start? Where do they begin? And as long as you're kind of intermixing with their energy, it's going to be very difficult to sort that out. So getting some space, giving yourself Six of Swords energy to kind of create some distance and to figure things out, I think is going to be important. You are not destined to, this is really important for all of us today. We're not destined to repeat the mistakes of our family. You get to release the sense of doubt there, and you also can release the ancestral connection to something that you didn't like. So in some of our families, there are issues with money, right? Or maybe the law, or maybe choices that led to poor health. Again, maybe alcoholism or things like that. So whatever it is that is in the family, and even in your own lifetime, if you've had some of those things pop up, this moment today, you're going to decide that the cycle stops, the cycle breaks, and it's a new beginning. And so that's the really cool thing with a moment like now where the veil is thin. You can connect to your higher self and say, I'm ready to break the cycle. I'm ready to make a new one, like Eight of Cups. So you're going to break and make a new cycle. And I think that's the important thing. But what I saw in the sort of dream vision, by the way, this was one where I woke up, it just felt like I was there. This was very prescient, I just felt like I was seeing it from your perspective. So some of you are going through this. It feels like you could also be experiencing a little bit of a temptation right now. So you had a challenge and you overcame it, whatever it might be. I named a few examples there. And then a family member comes back and presents doubt or a temptation that could bring you back into that cycle, but you're stronger now. Just like the Seven of Pentacles, you are growing, you are healing, and you may be triggered by the temptation or the reminder of what once was, but you are no longer that person. And therefore, you're not going to walk that path again. That was what I saw, and that was the message from my guides to you. You were able to be stronger. And I even saw a possibility for some of you to even stop a family member from doing something that you've been able to overcome. So you could not only sort of like be strong yourself, but you could help someone else if they're ready and willing. They have to be ready and willing. So I definitely saw an end to cycles for you. And that family energy could be chosen family to a very close friend, for instance, or it could be blood or marriage. It just felt very intimate energy. So this is someone who knows you and could be doubting something about you. And then, of course, then that makes you doubt yourself. So I want you to just be strong and look at your track history. Look at how you've improved. And every day is a step closer to that new, stronger you, that accomplishing of a goal and sort of like realization or coming to fruition. So that's the message for you. Okay. I felt good when I woke up from that, but there was that frustration of like unfinished business and maybe having to try to prove yourself to someone. So at the end of the day, you don't owe anybody an explanation. If you're happy, if you're feeling good, you're okay. All right. There you go. So if you happen to miss any of these, I always post a snapshot of the cards on my social media. So I'm going to try to start doing that sooner than later. It usually takes me a day, but I think what I'm going to do, starting with today's, is I'll just post the cards and maybe like one paragraph. I used to summarize every point, but I'm going to do like a 1 paragraph summary and then all the cards. And I'll try to do that by the end of the evening. And that way it's not as much work for me, but you still get the messages. And plus, this is going to be available on replay right after. So if you miss it, you can always listen to the first 20 or 30 minutes and you can get that. Just a quick note, if you want to follow me on social media, I posted a link in the corner that you can look at. My social media handle on just about every platform is @NicholasAshbaugh, except Twitter, which is @Ashbaugh. A reminder, I'll never reach out and directly ask you for anything or add you as a friend or anything like that. Avoid anyone that does that. If they offer services or ask for money or anything in direct messages, it's not me. And I'm not offering readings right now for anybody except existing clients, so ignore anything about that as well. I just like to put that out there for safety. If you happen to watch this on replay, you can also show thanks by clicking that thanks button right by share. All right, let's get into the 7-day forecast. And let me take a look at the cards today. We're going to choose a deck that feels right for today's forecast. I think because of the Halloween colors on this particular deck, it literally looks like Halloween. I think I used it last week, but I'm probably going to use this for the 7-day forecast, and then I'll use something different for the rest. All right. So this is St. Croix, Tarot de St. Croix. All right. We're going to pull 7 cards for 7 days, starting from Sunday, this Sunday, looking to next Sunday. Let's see what messages are coming through. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's take a look at the weekend. Saturday and Sunday. All right. Let me pull each and every card up and we'll talk about what's coming through. Okay. So let's begin with today. This is some of the energy of the jack-o'-lantern, which we were talking about. So we have the 5 of Swords. We have that inner child. Remember, I was talking also about that Aztec goddess that was basically lived her life in the underworld. This is the inner child that some of us were kind of stunted in our growth. The interesting thing here is the child is not the one that's being yelled at. It doesn't look like. It looks like it's a family member, whether it's a sister or a mother. It's hard to tell. But what we see is someone that the innocence was taken away because of an experience. Sometimes we have to grow up really fast. Maybe someone in the family loses a job. Maybe someone dies. Maybe there's just something that you see, a close friend or someone goes through something, and all of a sudden you change. Like the world seems to change on a dime. There could also be a part of you, again, that was taught to be shameful of your part of yourself, or to regret something. And what we're basically seeing with this card today, and it goes back to the message of what we're talking about in this reading today, is to reclaim that inner self. There was something about this authority figure, whether it's a parent, a teacher, a guardian, etc. They just weren't protecting you the way they should have. Okay. And I'm looking at the checkered floor, and it's almost as if some of you may have been used as a pawn, or some sort of, as someone that people would try to get ownership over or favor from, etc. We still feel this as adults too. Sometimes people will tap into your skill set because you're empathetic, you're creative, you're intuitive, whatever it is, and they just sort of take more than they should. So the message today is you are not going to feel sadness, fear, guilt, doubt, etc. for that. That is not your fault. You're not going to be anybody's pawn or fool. And what you're going to do instead is decide when, if, and how you're going to approach some of these people. I use the if portion because the 5 of Swords is often a conversation that may not be worth your time and energy. It can be a no-win sort of conversation. So I think for you, as you're looking at what you want to focus on for the week ahead, it's going to be really important for you to decide, even just projecting out to the next week, maybe something on Wednesday or Thursday, Friday, is this worth my time and energy? Sort of historically, when I work with this person or deal with this sort of energy, do I get anything out of it? And if the answer is no, with this card reversed, you're just going to release the need to sort of try to fix that or pick it all up, put it all back together, and just think, I don't need to spend any more time or energy on that. Free yourself, liberate yourself. So this is a very forward-looking card. It may not just have to do with today. You could be looking at the week ahead. You could be looking at your past. But today, understanding how you got into that situation or that sort of lesson is going to be so important. And then just let it go and focus on what you want to do, because you're also playing this game as well, the chess game of life, right? So it's your move now. Don't let someone else, checkmate you. I've never played chess, so pardon the metaphors, but you're going to just figure out how to be strategic and intelligent about how you invest your time and energy next. All right. Let's take a look. By the way, the card was reversed, so we're seeing things getting easier. I've often talked about my grandfather, who taught me that lesson of not having to prove yourself. If people aren't listening, just know that you're right and focus on doing the right thing. And that's good advice. On Monday, we have a great day for ideation. Some of you are a little bit mentally fatigued, though. So you could just be perhaps suffering from not having enough sleep, or maybe there's too many things that you're juggling right now. I want you to give yourself an opportunity to put some ideas to paper, to get a clear head, take a walk, get some time on your own, because this spark of intuition, of inspiration wants to come through, but it's a little bit muted. The other thing is, for those of you that are highly intuitive, you could be overanalyzing things. One of the most powerful things to connect to your intuition is simply to allow it to flow. So that's why I think talking with someone, scribbling things on paper, whatever you need to do to really allow for that creative energy to start to come through is going to be important. And you should embrace that. The Ace of Wands can also indicate that if you don't give yourself enough time to rest or to play, that you may not be able to experience these things as well. So if you are kind of like type A person, just make sure that you're giving yourself ample time to sleep, to have fun, and to try new things. Because if you don't experiment, you never know if something's going to work. Ultimately, it's a day to be kind of cognitive. You may have a hard time sort of like expressing yourself with others, but it's a really good day to go within. As we look at Tuesday, things are getting easier though. We have a really cool Three of Cups card coming through on this one, where we see that sharing of ideas and also sort of that exchange. The way that you have this sort of meeting could be very casual. So if you are, we'll take this first in a work context, and we'll look at it like family and love, because cups can kind of go in a lot of different ways. But for a work situation, this might be about getting someone either on your turf or on a neutral sort of platform, so that you're maybe meeting at a restaurant or meeting somewhere where it's not sort of territorial, and just have fun. And maybe it is like a cafe, or maybe it is just a walk in the park and you talk. Some of, like, back when I did have the corporate job, I remember one of my jobs was offered to me while I took several paces around a courtyard with a boss. They were presenting like an opportunity, and we just kept pacing until I said yes. So sometimes you have a very informal meeting ground. It's not in a boardroom. It's not on a conference call. It's just somewhere you wouldn't expect it. So business, good ideas and good partnerships could come in the most unlikely places. So say yes to some sort of an invitation, even if it feels kind of weird. It might lead to something. Now, for personal life, this is a good time to mix and mingle. If you're single and looking for love, this could be a chance to connect with some people that you really like, maybe new friends, maybe new love. For those of you in a relationship, it's about possibly hanging out with other people and bringing in some different energy, which can be good. The card is upright, so we don't always have to read it as something bad. I think this is just a good time to connect. And it could be, again, just friends and family, bringing in a breath of fresh air that can help break up the sort of monotony a bit. And for everyone else here, there's a very attractive energy. So if you have to present anything that day, I would say start off with story time, something conversational, rather than getting straight into the transactional piece. So even if it is just someone, maybe it is your partner that you need to talk to about something, maybe it is the budget or something, check in with them first. Say, oh, by the way, how'd the call go with your mom? Or, oh, did you check in with your friend? How's she doing? Talk about something else first. Weave your way into the actual point of the conversation, because this is going to sort of like oil the wheels a little bit. You'll be very comfortable. It's going to be fluid. You'll be able to say what you need to say, get in and out, and then you can talk about some other stuff. So your big, the thing that you want to talk about is just this little tiny acorn, and there's this big tree around it. So don't worry so much about that. Just kind of have some fun in the conversation. Wednesday's a pretty good day for you, but you're going to have to make some choices here. This is one of the nicer Two of Pentacles cards. The Two of Pentacles reminds you that in order to succeed, you'll have to say yes to something and no to something else. It doesn't have to be no, like a full stop. It can be a not now, not yet, or maybe next week. But once you get rid of that thing that's taking you off your balance, you have an ace in front of you then. And we can really see that in this particular card. So she's going to focus her energy on one of the aces. If I pull it really close, you can see there is still a pentacle up there. So the other one, you can kind of ground it for now, put it on the shelf, wait until later, and you'll be fine. You just have to focus on not overreaching, not overpromising, and not overspending. So basically balance overall. In your health, same sort of things with that, just making sure that everything is balanced. Moderation is key. All right. On Thursday, it's time to possibly put on your boss hat a little bit and decide to take control, take aim here. We have a very sort of Sagittarius oriented card there with the Archer. But what I'm seeing here is you could actually beat someone to the finish line simply by deciding to do it, get things started, raise your hand. Someone else may be a little bit shy or whatever, and you get this, what I'm seeing in my mind anyway, is this opportunity to get ahead of the charge ahead. So don't be afraid to step into the leadership role. And yeah, the Chariot's a really great card for that overall. It's a very sort of middle management card, like the Emperor would be a big boss, but the Chariot is about making sure all parts of your life, you have the balance card the day before it. And so now you're really focusing on learning from that Two of Pentacles moment and thinking, all right, let's go all in with this. So you should try to take the lead. Someone needs to sort of steer, and it's a good day for you to do that. As we look at Friday, I like what I see here, but it looks like what you're going to have to do is ask for something that you want. We have the Queen of Pentacles. Queens usually get what they want, especially reversed queens, because they can kind of, like a Queen of Swords in reverse will say what she needs to say. She can be very direct and good at editing and all that. Queen of Pentacles, I think what's happened for some of you is that it's time to ask for a return on something. So if you've done a lot of work to help somebody, and I love this queen, she's very much taken care of. So she's done a lot of that before for others. So if you've been the queen that's nurtured others, this is the time for you to say, all right, I need your help on this. I've helped you out a lot on these other projects. I usually don't complain, but this is something that's important. Can you help? Can I count on you? And maybe even just don't even put the can I. Say, I really need your help. How much are you available this week? Basically, maybe don't give someone a chance to say no to something. Or if it is a boss that you've been working with and you're trying to negotiate something, you could say, we've been putting this off for too long. Let's now make it happen. What's necessary? Incontrovertibly, like, what do I need to do to make this happen? And basically taking authority and having that sort of that strength. You have the strength, you always have. So just find the strength and conviction and pull it together. You may also decide to just pamper yourself, and that's fine. So you could be taking some of your time and energy and putting the resources that you've spent to get that rather, and putting it on yourself. So spa day, going to the doctor, taking care of just general stuff too. It's not, sometimes pampering is just doing what you need to. So if you're overdue for a physical or, dental cleanup or something like that, do that too. But do something for yourself, whether it's very necessary or just fun. This is a day to pamper yourself. Now, if you're in the midst of anyone that is the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, you can always decide how much to give or how and when, because there could be someone that's very needy around you. So if that person's showing up in your environment, you're going to need to negotiate. Okay. Overall, you have a good week. We're going to look at the last couple of days, but when I'm looking at the 5-day portion from Monday to Friday, there wasn't a bad card in it. Everything's looking really solid here. As we look at the weekend, and we'll have more of a chance next weekend to go deeper into this, but I think the trickiest day ahead for you is probably next Saturday. We have the 10 of Swords coming through, but this is a rising above, not a sort of succumbing to the energy of the 10 of Swords. So for some of you, there's going to be a test, and the test will be, am I going to let that person bother, trigger, or somehow manipulate me into saying something that I don't want to say? And the answer, of course, is no, because you're looking at this ahead of time. Some of you may need to take care of a physical problem. So maybe, you have some upper or lower back issues, neck pain, TMJ, something like that. Whatever the chronic issue is, take care of yourself. And because you have this warning that it could be next Saturday, remember what I said about Friday. If you go to the doctor, if you take care of yourself, then you rise above the situation and it's not going to be a big deal. All right. So take care of you on Friday. And then hopefully on Saturday, you can just focus. I think it should be a quiet day. When we get something like the 10 of Swords or the 5 of Swords, communication isn't always the best thing. So if you're going to do something, maybe it's more of like activities based. So you could spend some time with a good friend, or you could hang out with your kids or your partner, and you could just do something fun. Maybe this is a good time to like watch a movie, or to, take a drive or take a walk, but it doesn't have to, this isn't the day that I would negotiate anything or have difficult conversations. Get out of the environment a little bit. I think that'll be good, but it should just be sort of like easy breezy sort of stuff and not talking too much. Looking much better as we look at a full week ahead to next Sunday. Queen of Swords, which I did talk about, came through. She looks quite strong here. She's actually like a warrior queen here, which I like. So what I would say here is this is the day to make something happen and to get very real. So if you need to win a negotiation, I love the Queen of Swords reversed. The only thing you want to be mindful of a week from today is just to focus on constructive, supportive, maybe just erring on the side of being brief messages. All of that stuff is going to be key. Sometimes you can always add, but you can't take back. Once the words are spilled out, they're there. So start with something shorter, short and sweet. And that's really the Queen of Swords reversed at her best. Short, direct, sweet, powerful, assertive. The assertive energy that started to come in on Thursday really blossoms come Sunday. So again, just a quick mini review, and then we'll get into the elements. Today, we're going to be focusing on healing the inner child. It came through loud and clear. Monday, you're going to focus on ideation, brainstorming. You're in your head a little bit. Don't be too much in your head. Do find a way to sort of like express that and put it on paper or brainstorm or somehow kind of like get out of your headspace. I think that'll be important too. Socializing is so important on Tuesday, meeting up with other people, keeping things casual. I think that's actually important as well. There's going to be a choice that you need to make on Wednesday for what you want to focus on. Thursday, taking the initiative. Friday, taking care of yourself. Hopefully by Saturday, you're going to avert this. But if you need to do anything else, carrying over that self-care onto Saturday is just fine. Taking some quiet time as well, resting your voice, resting your head. And then back to whatever it is that you need to get done next Sunday. You have a chance to really kind of like be powerful and share your ideas. So I like that. Okay, let's move on to the elements. I'm just taking a look at the cards. Let's see what I haven't used in a while. All right, we'll use this one here. All right, so we're going to take a look at earth, air, water, and fire here in just a second. I think I might choose a different deck. Let's see. I'm being called to choose a different deck. Let's see. Yes, we're going to use... Okay, now I'm going to use this one. This is the right one. All right, so let's begin here with the different elements. So let me just shuffle everything and then we'll begin. If you just joined, this is the specific piece. Everything else that I've been talking about is for everyone, but we're going to specifically go into the elements here, looking at fire, which is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius first. And then we'll go into earth, air, and water as well. Okay, so let's talk about your messages. We're going to begin with fire again. So this will be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. We have the Nine of Pentacles, a lovely Nine of Pentacles. So this is very much harvest energy, which makes sense for right now, perfect for Halloween. The interesting thing with the Nine of Pentacles sometimes is there is a tendency for you to not want to accept help. The good news is you're going to have a productive week. A lot's going to get done. The card was reversed, however. So this is the stubborn energy of the Nine of Pentacles. So Nine of Pentacles upright means that there is sustainability, there is productivity, there is independence, there is basically everything that you'd be looking for. You're on the right path. This week, however, you could do more if you allow help to come in, if you delegate a little bit more, if you're open to ideas. We actually see like 3 wands behind her too in this Nine of Pentacles. So I feel like there's more possibility than you might be aware of. Like it's almost right in front of you, but because of all this, it's like she's in the weeds, right? She can't see that. So I think that don't limit your potential. Don't think that this is everything, like I said earlier, and don't be afraid to accept help from others, okay? I really like what I'm seeing for Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Fire, it's going to be a great week for you. Resources are coming in a good way. You have a little bit of a challenge like we talked about on Wednesday, but once you master that, I think it's going to be good for you. So don't be afraid to ask for help. We see her holding carrots, which is a root vegetable. So this is a very grounded sign. That makes sense. I've talked before about the benefits of sometimes grounding yourself even with diet. So eating like beets, carrots, leeks, anything that's in the ground, onions, garlic, etc., depending on your diet and your medications, obviously. But potatoes, if you're feeling a little bit lost or feeling overwhelmed, or if there's a lot of spiritual energy coming through, find something with a little bit of root energy in it, again, from a vegetable, and that can help you out as well. All right, you're going to have a great week. Like I said, fire, we're looking at additional resources, but you may be missing something because you're so focused on your sort of path. So open things up, take the blinders off. I also see good energy coming in for Earth. So Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, we have the 10 of Wands reversed. Most of the cards here are reversed. So I'm just going to read how to kind of accomplish the upright. So when we look at this, this is one of the burdened 10 of Wands. A lot of times with 10 of Wands, we feel that it's sort of like, I'm almost done, but can I get through this last sort of bit of this journey? So like a race, if you've ever watched a marathon runner, sometimes that the last few inches even of the race, their body's doing this weird sort of stuff. It's spasming. They're kind of like, basically it's mind over body. It's sort of like pushing yourself through. So some of you may be having those knee-jerk reactions. And what you're going to have to try to do is get your, I felt a little pain in my core. So I would say get your solar plexus and also just your seventh chakra, get everything together and pull the energy so that you can make it through. You've come this far. There's no reason that you can't get to the finish line. This is a completion stage for you. So as you're kicking off the month of November, because November begins tomorrow, and for those of you in Australia, it's right now. So if November is beginning, or if you're watching this later, what I want you to really focus on for this week ahead is to not get ahead of yourself, to take it one step at a time. And if you get a little disgruntled, look at how far you have come rather than how far you have to still go, because it really does feel like you're on that last leg of the journey. Don't be pushed into doing something that you don't want to do. If there are friends, family, whoever around you that are trying to kind of like spoon feed you something that doesn't feel right, you say no. So stand your ground, finish what you started, and don't succumb to pressure. If anyone is abusing power for any reason, you definitely want to get help on that and get away from that, because you are so close to accomplishing something. My number one message for you is you've got this. Please finish it. Some of you may be trying to decide if and when to move. It's looking good. The 10 of Wands is a signal for movement. There could just be a couple of hiccups around either when or where. So you just need to kind of focus on maybe broadening your canvas a bit. Okay. Overall, two great starts here as we're looking at both fire and earth. Let's move on to air, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So we have the 6 of Swords. I feel like we got 6 of Swords a couple of times here. It keeps coming up for the air signs. This is better than last week. I do remember that. This is moving on. This is what today is about, this whole reading today. So if you've been looking for permission, is this the time? Should I move on? Should I say goodbye? Should I try something new? Should I move? Yes, 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 yes. It's all here. Movement is a part of this. And for many of you, you're finally at that precipice where it's going to start to feel better. So if you lost someone in your life, if you somehow are at a point where, let's see, for some of you, I think you could just even be wondering, like, why is this all happening? Suddenly there's this sort of clarity that comes through where it's like, okay, it's all been part of a bigger purpose, a bigger sort of pattern. So I think the pattern will reveal itself to you. And I think the important thing for you is to decide what you want next, so the universe can start moving you in that direction. All right. Movement. I'll take the 6 of Swords as a part of that sort of collective of air signs that I just mentioned. So I think that's good. Movement's good. I did a meditation recently. I don't know if it was Pisces or Aquarius, but it was about kind of like imagining that you were on that raft or that boat, but breathing and imagining that you're the wind in your own sails, not trying to gather someone else's wind, not trying to follow someone else's footsteps. So be your own wind in your own sails. And I think that's important. A couple last notes here. Don't be afraid to do something in person or to reach out or to go the extra mile. That's going to pay off as well. So much like we saw with the 3 of Cups, I think it would be better to meet either in the middle or on someone else's turf so that they see that you're going that extra effort to kind of meet them. Meet someone halfway. And that's the message for air signs. As we look at water, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, really, I think you got one of the best cards this week. There was really no bad card for all the elements. It's going to be a good week. Good start. So 3 of Pentacles is fantastic. Again, all of these came through reverse, which is just showing some of the I would say the tentative energy right now. But with the Three of Pentacles, basically the question is, what is it that you're trying to, again, create? And I think for some of you, you're overdue for recognition. So if you've been in a relationship for a long time and you're wondering, is this going to go to the next level? It should. If the other person isn't ready to give you that, then you've done the work. The other person really does need to meet you at your level. For some of you, you're deciding to get some training or go back to school. It's a yes. That's going to be well received. It's going to help you out. For the rest of you, I feel like you're overdue. That's why the card came through reverse. So some of you may just be, you might have been waiting a long time for something to come to fruition. And sometimes all you have to do is ask, or all you have to do is change your posture, change the tone of your voice, and say, I've waited. Now it's time. Again, what are we going to do to make this happen? So this is the assertive message from the Chariot. Definitely comes through for you here, because you can actually call their bluff because you've done the work. You might even have something else lined up. And so this is a chance for you to really position yourself in a strong place. If you are a writer or anyone that works with their hands, I would say this could also be like construction or architecture or whatever. Whatever you decide to breathe energy into and basically be hands-on with this week, it's going to be very good. I see a lot of productivity. So when we're looking at fire, it was all about like money, resources, and keeping an open eye. When we're looking at earth, it's about letting go, finishing up that process, not getting pushed, going the distance. The same thing kind of came through for air, movement. The only thing I would say air shouldn't do is stay still. You need to move something forward. And if not something, maybe yourself, movement is key. And then recognition and hands-on work is the key thing for water right now. All right. Across the board, like great cards. Nothing negative when I'm looking at the elements. I'm excited to see what this week is going to bring for you. All right, let's go ahead now. And I feel like we should call them like, instead of blessings and blocks, it's almost like treats for blessings and possible tricks. So trick or treat. But let's start with the blessings first. Hopefully the treats of this particular period of time. All right, so let me use a different deck for this as well. So this is something to look forward to. Blessings or treats. All right, things are going to start to pick up. We have the Four of Swords in reverse. Lots of reversals today. It's okay. Again, whenever we're working with either transformational energy, which we are today, or like a retrograde, which we're thankfully done with, things can be a little bit wonky. So this is showing me that many of you wished that things would pick up. Careful what you wish for. For those of you that have been bored, I see that you're going to be busy. There's a lot coming through. Some of you, I feel like there's so many ideas pouring through that you are having a hard time going to sleep. That happens to me sometimes because I work really hard in the daytime and there's a lot of things that I juggle. And then sometimes when I sit in bed, I think, oh, let me just tap that on my phone. Oh, let me do this. And then before you notice it, like an hour has gone by because you've had all these brainstorms, right? So I want you to focus on self-care and maybe just setting up some time where you turn off the radio, the TV, and just sort of like sit and think before you go to bed about all that stuff. And then by the time you go to bed, it's just like quiet time, right? So things are going to pick up, and it is a blessing, but it's a mixed blessing, right? So you're going to have to figure out how to navigate fatigue and possibly just balancing a lot. All right. So now let's look at potential blocks. And this would be the tricky elements of what's coming through. And maybe some of that jack-o'-lantern energy where it's sort of like not always what it seems it might be. Okay. So what's the tricky thing or the block that's coming through? You know, it's kind of like in disguise here. So this is going to the extremes. So I love Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups can be really good news. It can be a big celebration, but it can also be that hangover after it, right? So, and it could just like, and this hangover is kind of like metaphorical here, so, or symbolic. So for some of you, there could be this really cool celebration where you decide to get together with family. Maybe you're doing that for Day of the Dead or something. There's this big family celebration. Or maybe there's someone visiting you, or you're just having a lot going on. And when things get quiet eventually, because the Four of Swords reverse will only last for so long, then there's that letdown, like, oh, the house is empty again, or, oh, I've got all this time. What do I do? For those of you that might have just kind of gotten off the hamster wheel of working and you're retired and you're thinking, I need stuff to sort of like put back into my life. So for some of you, I feel like it's the empty nest or the emptiness that's coming from something that used to be there. And sometimes we just want to replace that with something else. So the block could be substituting that with like self-medication, eating, drinking too much, or staying up late or something like that, finding a way to cope. So find a better way to cope is what I would say. And then also it can be the very highs and lows that come with the 9 of Cups card. So it's good to have like these punctuated moments where things are really good. It's even beneficial to have moments where it's not so good because then we recognize those. But if we keep zigging and zagging like that, it's too much. So you want to kind of have the little soft in between and then an occasional peak. And then life sometimes brings us here, but most of the time it's soft and in the middle, right? So trying to kind of even out the emotional highs and lows. Okay, that's your block. All right, let's do a viewer poll before we get into the next portion. So let's see what we're going to look at today. All right, based on the cards in front of me, here's some questions. So anybody that's live and you're watching on a phone, mobile device, or a computer, you should be able to vote in this poll once I put it live. So just give me a second to do that. So I think I'd like to look at the self-care. So we're going to do viewer's choice. The first thing that I can look at if you want it would be self-care. You know what self-care is. So self-care. And then we're going to look at the second piece, which could be negotiations and meetings because of the 3 of Cups. Negotiations and meetings. I'm going to put like mastering and say taking time for self-care. And then the last option, as I'm looking at all of these, I'm looking at the open mind energy when I was focusing on the fire signs. So how to keep an open mind, how to keep an open mind. These are very kind of like tactical pieces because we're going to be looking at messages from the departed next. So if there's anything here that you'd like me to look at, let me know. I'm going to pull one little wild card here while I'm waiting for you to vote on this. The wild card is something that I haven't already talked about that we need to focus on. So let's see. All right, patience. Everybody's favorite. We have temperance here. What I like about temperance, though, is we are seeing sort of this shift from, for some of you, it's been this, again, it's been either overwhelming or too much. For some of you, it's been a desert. And what I'm seeing here is there is going to be this nice sort of in-between land. And I also think if you want to start something new, it's taking one step at a time. So if you have been feeling too much of this, too much of that, don't try to go like all the way over here immediately. Just like steering a car, if you go too fast, everyone in the car ends up going to the right or to the left. And it still takes a while for the car to catch up. The people are going to go out the window. So go slower, move the wheels slower so that you're not feeling that inertia sort of take you too fast or that sort of whiplash. So I think one step at a time is what I'm getting here for any change that you're trying to make. All right, it looks like we have a good winner at this point. So let's take a look at what you just voted on. All right, by 42%, a pretty big win here. We have mastering negotiations and meetings. So by the way, this can be a first date. This could be an interview. And this could also be having a difficult conversation with someone that you already know. So whether it's new or old, you still have the same butterflies. And that's how I'm going to read this particular question. It's going to be okay. We've got the Lovers card. I think you might be making things more difficult than they need to be. So a lot of times this happens for people that are highly empathic and really care about someone else and hurting somebody's feelings, for instance. And I feel like you're going to be okay because you care so much. The most important thing actually here is probably to protect yourself, right? So the Lovers card is here. So the answer is love. if you have a difficult conversation to start on with somebody, what you need to kind of begin with is why you care about the person. So you could say, you know that I always want the best for us, or say, I think we both care about this if it's work or something. I know we both are equally invested in the success of this. Same thing for a relationship. Say, we've been together for X amount of years and you're my number one. Because of that, I need to share something with you, or I really want to, I think by talking about this, we can even improve the relationship more. So that is saying, I care about you, I'm invested in you, and this can only help. And that's why we're doing this. I'm not asking for permission. I'm not asking for an opinion. I'm asking to sort of like bring you into the fold here because I need you. You can also say that. Show love, show affections, show that sort of not codependency, but like I really would appreciate your help on this, and then see where they stand. So it's all about love, infusing it with love. And even if it's someone that you don't like, say you have to kind of like step out of something, you can always say, I'm overextended and you deserve the best. I can't give you that right now. That's a nice way to say, I don't want to do it and I don't have time. But you could just say, you deserve a lot more than I can give you right now. And I'm also just kind of overtaxed. This is more than I can do. So always start with them and why it's best for them. Okay, that's the answer on that one. That was pretty easy, actually. And I actually feel like it'll end up better than you thought. All right. I know that when I quit my job, I rehearsed it many, many times, the last job that I had, and I was so worried about it, but it was very much the lovers that I got with that too. I think sometimes the more you rehearse it and the more you care, the better the result will be, because you've done all the work and you've kind of energetically taken all the worst possible turns. And even if something pops up where it doesn't feel like super great, you're going to be okay at the end of the day because you're prepared. And I think that preparation is key. All right. So let me give you, let's see. I want to see which deck is calling to me because this is important. We're going to get into the main portion of the reading, looking at messages from the departed. I like this deck. We're going to go with this deck here, I think. But let's see. All right. I'm going to give you 3 decks to choose from. I think it'll be fun. I try to allow you guys to interact a little bit. These are 3 of my favorite decks. So let me give you a quick poll, and we'll do it pretty fast. So which deck would you like? So we can use True Heart Intuitive. We can use Afro Goddess, which is in the center. We can use Light Seers. So there you go. In case you've never seen it, True Heart Intuitive is this one. Afro Goddess is this one, really beautiful. And then I love Light Seers. I've been using this one for a while too. This is Light Seers. So let me know, and then we'll get started on this while you're voting. Again, this is my favorite new t-shirt. I also love how the even Sagittarius and Libra, all of us that have like the inanimate ones, we got a little skeleton hand on this particular shirt. I think it's a cool shirt. And Aquarius too. There's like a little skeleton holding the water. So that was my outfit for today. All right. It looks like Light Seers is the clear winner. So let's go ahead for it. I think that's a really smart choice for today because just like I was talking about the jack-o'-lantern, we need some light to pop through. So let's do it. Yeah, it was a really clear winner. All right. Thank you everyone for voting. And occasionally I'll let you do that. We'll do the same at the end where you can choose which sound bath you would like. All right. So let's take a deep breath. This is again for everybody that's present today. I don't separate this in signs except for the elements, which I've already done. So you can always watch that later, but this is for everyone. We're going to be focusing now on bringing forth messages from the departed and also kind of like advice on how to focus on your life too, as we look at some of the future projections. There we've got the devil, which we talked about earlier. I'm glad you guys like the polls. I try to make it fun for those of you that show up. You get to actually shape the way this goes. Kind of makes it a little bit more interactive. I can't always answer your questions, but I can allow you to kind of like steer me in the direction that you want sometimes. So again, though, this Friday, I will have a special reading. More to come on my community tab later today. I'll set it up and we'll take a look at how you can submit your questions. It'll be up by Monday. We'll be looking at like health, wealth, love, and destiny, slightly different here. It's going to be about connections with the family on this, sort of like things that you might be able to overcome. Like if there's a family history of health issues, or be looking at wealth, like again, kind of like connecting to family on all of this. So I read it a little bit different than the traditional health, wealth, love, and destiny. And I might give you like 2 silent questions today. Usually I do a soul path one on this or something, or like a big idea. Instead of the big idea, I'll let you ask a family member something, and then you'll still get a question at the end. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at all this. I always like to start with a catalyst. The catalyst is a way for you to basically connect to the best possible energy to stay out of trouble, to really make sure that everything's okay. We have the Earth Guardian, staying grounded, obviously. So it says, stay rooted and stay grounded. And we got that kind of energy when I was looking at the 9 of Pentacles, which came through for fire. So I think everybody actually would benefit right now from that. So for some of you right now, what we're looking at is this sort of head in the clouds. And I think that some of you may be natural dreamers. So one of the first messages from your family members from the departed that's coming through is, I don't know if you necessarily have to be so practical. In the book that I wrote, which actually is 1 year old today, the Luminous Ones, there's a kid at the beginning that we later see as an adult, but his grandfather kind of tells him once, like, don't be so practical. And I think there's something to be said about practicality, which sometimes kind of suffocates that inner child. If I can go back to this deck that we were using here just a moment ago. Yeah, this is practicality killing the inner child, right? Like, you can't make a living at that, or, you know, what will people think, or everyone in the family's been a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. That's not your path. You choose your own path. Find your own footing. Find your own ground. Find what makes sense for you. And because we see a winged guardian here, no matter which way you go, you'll land on your feet. Okay? As long as you're following your heart, you'll land on your feet. Not maybe like physically, but psychically you will. And I think that's the important thing. I think someone in your family was kind of like beating a dead horse and saying, you know, this is the right way to do it. This is the grounded thing. This is the appropriate thing. This is what people expect, right? So I think that you trust yourself on that, okay? I mentioned in channeled messages the codependent or the addictive quality that I was getting with some of the relationship energy that was coming through from spirit. So for some of you, there could have been a very controlling figure that has passed. There could also be a relationship where it doesn't have to like physically be dead, but you feel like there was a part of you that was lost in that. This is about reclamation, and this was a reminder that you pulled the strings, he doesn't, and we're not going to do any more deals with this kind of energy. So you learned a lesson, and sometimes we don't have a choice. If this is mom, dad, grandmother, grandfather, you know, you're born into the family, so you just have to kind of like live through that period until you're an adult, and then you get to make choices. So this is your chance to release that. And also, one thing I think that's really important when there's people in your life that have that energy, I choose not to think about them anymore. Like, I kind of get past the energy of getting upset. I never sweep an emotion under the rug. That's not helpful. I'll be as angry as I want to be. I'll say what I need to say. And then I think to myself, okay, enough. This is the scale portion of me. That's not worth my time. I'm very 6 of Pentacles with that. I don't hold a grudge like that. I don't have time for that. I'm actually surprised sometimes where you know, I've run across one or two people in my life where they go out of their way to like leave a nasty message or send a nasty email or send even a card where they detail all this stuff. And I just think, why are you focusing on this? I'm not focused on that. So let it go. Imagine that it's just rain off your back and you're not worrying about it anymore. Okay. You are reclaiming your power. They never really had it. When it comes to control issues, sometimes as a child, we don't have a choice and someone does abuse power. But when we become older, we don't have to keep giving them power in the form of thoughts. So reclaim your thoughts, reclaim your energy, and reclaim the path that you want to. And you will do better. And in fact, they may be surprised, and then that may even drive them a little bit crazy, but you're going to do fine. Okay? So you are already one step past this, and this energy is upset because of that. That's why it came at the center. You're fine, but he doesn't like to lose energy. So you're doing great. This is the power of thought. And thought can create and destroy. Words can do the same. Again, in the book that I wrote, there's this character where there's a divine tongue, a language where kind of like what you even see in Dune, which just was re-released as a movie, part 1. But there's this sort of like, they use the voice, but there's a way to use language in such a way that it commands, it can break, it can create and destroy. So mine was a little bit more alchemic. Theirs is a little bit more manipulative in Dune. But I view voice and words and thoughts as alchemic. They construct or deconstruct. So you can deconstruct the bonds between you and that person in your life, and you can construct, you can create something new. You always can walk out of that spiral staircase, right? So that's the opportunity here, is to think about a different future, to think about a new future, right? So I'm excited about that for you. And I think the most important thing for you is to realize you're not that person, and that cycle is no longer going to be sort of like a key piece of your narrative. All right, so there definitely is a very strong paternal energy coming through here with the Hierophant. The interesting thing here is we see the way to break through that, and it is laughter and joy. So the old sort of guard, the old way of doing stuff was very regimented, very serious. Maybe we're taught to not sort of like laugh and be yourself. The answer is actually, the anti-venom to that is actually the opposite, which is to be joyous and to be absolutely out of the box in your thinking and your way of living. That is an old way. That is the interesting thing on all of these. Notice how we see stairwells up and out of things. Originally that looked like a pyramid, but when you look really close, it's actually stairway to heaven, right? And this one is a stairway out of the sort of depths of your mind, sometimes that rabbit hole that we go into. So you want to just think higher, think above. You can take a different path. You don't have to be stuck in the old way, all right? So be yourself and go in another direction, another path. Your journey is not the journey of mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandfather, grandmother, or your partner, or whoever it is that you were kind of tied to. It's something quite different. You're already closer to that than you think. And there's actually something in front of you that you may not consider yourself ready for, but Spirit does. The Four of Cups is a blessing that is hidden and right there. And I would say for you, ripe for the picking. So are you ready? Are you willing to see yourself there? I've talked about rainbows a lot over the past month or two, and the illusion sometimes of chasing the end of it. If you keep chasing the end, it's never going to happen because there's only a certain angle at which you can see it, something like 30 or 40 degrees. So if you're not seeing it in that exact sort of perspective, you'll just always be chasing rainbows. You're already at the end of one. There's already something there for you. So the grass isn't always greener, and there might be something right there that is asking you sort of like, why don't you take advantage of this, right? So the other thing that comes through with this as I'm kind of going into my mind is, I've talked about this also the past month or so, but in case you haven't joined in the collectives or in some of the individual ones, I'll repeat this. Four of Cups can also be like the person that is granted 3 wishes but has to keep at the third wishes they want more. What do you need to make you happy? It's kind of like the story of Midas, where he wanted to touch everything and make it gold, but then he realized he could never touch people or anything else again, not even himself, or everything would turn to gold. So when is enough enough? And that's really what this card is asking you. And also, how do you know, like, you may not even be looking at your own self-worth. So it's about worth, self-worth, and then also how much do you need to be happy? And are you just feeling a void somewhere else that you need to kind of be focusing on? So I think some of this is coming up again because someone else got in your head, but they're no longer someone that you need to be focusing on as much. When someone has passed and you are the one that's left, there is a strength in your journey because, first of all, your story's not over, right? Secondly, you might have actually made smarter choices that allow you to keep being on this physical plane. Sometimes we do know people that have made poor choices, thus the devil came through. So whether it was just they put their safety at risk, they put their health at risk, they did any number of things. And you're just kind of being smarter about that. And I want you to celebrate the fact that you're here for a reason. Either your karma isn't finished, or you've made smart choices, or the universe is gifting you time. Either way, you're winning. There's no such thing as winning or losing if you're living. You still have opportunities, and every day is giving you a chance to do better, okay? So that's the Four of Cups, a very sort of like a deep version of it, but that's what it is, all right? Nine of Cups reverse. She's coming through again. We talked about this before. It definitely is reversed this time. So this is a kind of, it can be a bipolar energy, or a very sort of polarized, I should just say, energy, where it's feeling like top of the mountain or bottom of the heap. If you're in either one of these, you want to realize that time has a way of kind of like modulating us up and down. So you're not going to always be in a difficult position. So the question is, what are you going to do next? And why did you get there? And is this a gift? If you're at the top, help other people if you can. Look at changing and growing so you can keep staying there if you want to, or decide, is there something else that I want to explore? But don't worry so much about I'm here or I'm here and getting freaked out because of anxiety of staying here or anxiety that you're going to be stuck here. Just keep doing what you need to be doing, and that's going to bring you into the right trajectory. Try to look for the sunny side of things, or the silver lining. I think that is important. But what we see here is her euphoria is probably going to make her plant her face on the ground because she's throwing herself up in the air. So we've got to kind of like balance things out a bit there. All right. I like what I see here in the near future. What your story matters. So the Eight of Pentacles is, how are you going to record your story, and how are you going to give back? What's your legacy? So the story can be many things, by the way. So for some of you, you've learned things. Maybe you've perfected a certain skill, and you're going to find a way now to put out a curriculum or a special teaching of how, to kind of bring this to the next generation. Some of you are natural writers or creators, and the Eight of Pentacles is very much a card of like people that have a trade, and they're going to put that into action. So if you're someone that, maybe you create clothing or pottery, or like I said, you're a builder, it's building and crafts sort of work. I think that this is a great time. That can be a legacy as well. So how are you going to pass your story on? And for some of you, you're going to take a different path. And if you've thought of going back to school, your departed are saying, please do that. This may have been something they didn't have a chance to do. So they're either impressed with your trade skills, your ability to go back and learn, or your ability to teach. There's something about the exchange of knowledge and then the transference of that knowledge, especially, that's important to your journey. So go for it. This is a good card financially, by the way. So Eight of Pentacles, I'm seeing a return. The hard work that you've been doing, or maybe grandpa from some other country came here, your parents worked hard. You're like that third or fourth generation maybe, or even you're the first generation and you're the promise of something new, but we're seeing rapid development now. The time is right for you. So the dream of where you're at in whatever country and whatever walk of life you are, we see this sort of movement where they just want you to have more. So as long as you're happy, more isn't just more money, it's more opportunity. And so if you have opportunity to explore things and you try and you fail, you still succeeded because they maybe didn't have that chance. So don't measure yourself by money or wealth. Measure yourself by opportunity and how much you're doing to try different things. Not everything sticks, and it doesn't always work the first time. So it's good to take these risks. It's good to try new things. Just try. That's all you need to do for mom, dad, grandpa, whomever. Keep learning, keep trying, keep expanding, and maybe pass that on to some other people. Yeah. All right. This is exactly what I saw in my dreams, which was the card is reversed, but it is that sort of temptation that comes through when you're on the precipice of overcoming something. So it could be financial. So maybe you've made some poor decisions in the past, or your family had a sort of history of money challenges, but you're the one that actually understands how to save it, how to spend it, how to attract it. So patience is the key with the Seven of Pentacles. Healing is possible. Same thing happens for addiction or health issues. You are a new start. This is kind of like transplanted from the main vine, and it takes time for it to send out new roots, for it to heal, for it to set up new shoots so that it can grow. So the proper grounding, the roots are in place. All you have to do is be patient and trust and not try to take a shortcut, and don't go back to the old thing that you walked away from. As long as you are on the new path and you trust and you're patient, you're going to be fine. And again, they want for the healing to happen. In a relationship that was broken, let's say there was just a really not so pleasant situation, healing is possible, even if the other person doesn't want to heal. This is something magical. You don't have to, like, forgiveness is multifaceted. So it's not about like forgiving what someone, it's not about that moment in time. It's more about loving yourself enough to not hold on to that moment, and hoping that the other person can maybe do the same and grow, and not punishing because when you punish the other person, you're also punishing yourself. So start with personal forgiveness. Start with releasing the thoughts attached to something that you couldn't control or didn't do as much as you wanted to. Focus instead on putting the energy into something you can control. And that's the message here: is what can you grow? What can you fix? What can you mend? And if someone doesn't want to accept your apology, it's on them. And if someone wasn't living and you didn't get to say it now. They hear you. And here's the cool thing: when they are in spirit, they don't get to talk back as much. Even to a medium, it's not like you hear it all the time. You'll hear it in dreams, meditation, if you're really tuned in. But if you just need to say something, and even if it's sort of a little bit of tough love, you can say it. Say, you didn't make it easy. You made it hard on me, and that upset me. Whatever it is you have to say, take a deep breath and say, but it's done now. So I just want you to be happier, and I want to be happier, but I had to say that. So you can say your piece with people. It'll help you out. Try to do something nice for them too. Because if you keep putting fire on fire, it just gets bigger. What you want to try to do is mute that a little bit. So starve that energy, and put instead like the opposite, which we talked about earlier, which was love. So you can say that you were disappointed. You can say that you'll always love them. And you can just say, I love myself enough also not to hold on to this anymore. Put love in there somewhere so that you can allow for the healing to take place. Movement, we like this in your environment. Some of you might be moving and moving on. This is good for you. It could also scare the person on the other side, because they're like, oh my God, look at how much it happened, how much change is happening. So just rest assured that you're on the right path, and let them know the same. They're celebrating that. And if you want, they'll take the journey with you. But if you don't, let them know that as well. I like the 10 of Wands, though. To me, it tells me that everything that you did, especially for those of you that are immigrants or the children of immigrants. I'm like a third generation. My grandfather came over from Italy, and I think he was like in his 10, 12, 13. He had to learn English at that point. And when I was a kid, I never knew, like, he didn't speak with an accent, but I later heard him speaking perfect Italian, perfect Spanish, perfect English. He never went to college, but probably one of the smartest people that I know. Because of him, My parents had more opportunities because of them. I had more opportunities. So for those of us that are children of immigrants, this is kind of our story, which is we've traveled a long way from our homeland, but we're still kind of honoring the ancestral energy, right? So they're very proud of you for wherever you're at in that journey. Okay. Keep moving. What's the next chapter? What's the next phase, right? Where do you want to go next? So the cool thing with the 10 of Wands, and also the scary thing with the 10 of Wands, is you've come this far, but it's sort of like, this is the anticlimactic moment. You've gotten just past the climax here. And it's sort of like, all right, now what? So I always want you to have something in the back pocket. What's the next now what? So if you're almost finished with something, think about what to do next, how to keep the ball rolling. All right. Some of you wonder, like, how do I communicate with the dead? Just think about them. They hear your thoughts as if it was an intercom. So the 7 of Cups can be someone taking residence in your head, especially when we're looking at a reading like this. Some of you are trying to get them out of your head, and that's fine. If you're trying to release the ghosts from the past, which was one of the things that I voted, like I had you guys vote on, one of the things that you can do is change the channel. So, and sometimes that involves, let's say you lived in a house with someone and they passed away, and literally everything around you reminds you of them. So you could either do a kind of renovation and paint everything new, change up the environment. You could move, because we saw a move card here. Any of those things can kind of help. Also, if you're just having recurring thoughts about somebody, just change your activity and what you're focusing on. Listen to the radio, walk the dog, call a friend. Just kind of get outside, get away from that thought for a little bit and focus on something else. Because sometimes the more we focus on something, the more it kind of becomes stuck like an old-fashioned tape or record player. So this is a chance for you you have to mindfully and purposefully kind of look at other things. And part of what you might need to do first is have that conversation, air the dirty laundry, and then let it go. Okay. So if you do want to communicate, all you have to do is think. When I work with some of my guides, this was one of my early lessons when I was starting to develop clairaudient skills, which is, by the way, it's not like I hear it in real time. It's often one ear or the other, and it's a voice, but it's kind of like in the ear. It's hard to explain. And I have to like sometimes tell them to raise their frequency. It's almost like a hearing aid. And then I can hear the voice better or get closer. Or I just say, go in my head instead. And then I hear it in my head space, because the ear chakras are sometimes a little wonky. So anyway, when I was able to connect with some of my guides there, if I try to talk, I take myself out of meditation. They're like, just think it. So once I started to just think in my head, like most of you do. I think some of you probably hear your voice. Some of you may see words. There's different ways of thinking to yourself. But if you hear narration in your head, then just narrate and talk to them. And so you can just be sitting still at the dinner table, closing your eyes, and you could talk to somebody, send a little wish and say, this meal's for you. I'm thinking about you, but you don't have to say it out loud. The thought projects. So for those of you that want to develop your skills, you can just think it. They hear it. Specifically, if you push it out there and address it towards them. They're not in your head all the time. But if you specifically are thinking about them, and that's how sometimes like my mom's mom, my grandmother, if I cook certain things, I remember I could feel the energy in the kitchen. She liked to bake and do things like that. So if you're doing one of their old things and you're thinking about them or something, then they kind of join in. They're like, what's going on? What's the party? So if your heart's connected and your head's connected, they're connected. It's kind of like a one-way mirror where they're looking in. And they can hear you, but you can't hear them. Another message that I actually wrote down to avoid this, the 4 of Pentacles. There is more and there is better to come than there is right now. And so let go of this feeling of not going, like you're not going to have enough, there won't be enough, etc. You will, okay? So there was limitations, I think, that were imposed upon you by society, ancestors, or your family. And this is the big opportunity for you to release, because your truth is not the 4 of Pentacles, it's the 8 of Pentacles. So go your own path. Don't limit yourself. This isn't as good as it gets. There's more. But I will say there's more than meets the eye already where you're at. So the 2 4s are perspective cards. Tap into your already existing perspective and imagine that more abundance is en route. And if you do that, some good stuff is coming through. Let's expand this now and look at it through the lens of health, wealth, love, and destiny. But again, as messages from the departed and also things that you might be able to release potentially. The return, own your own mastery here. So this is really cool. This can be taken at face value. So with the return, with the fact that we're right here on the precipice of Day of the Dead, you could be reconnecting with somebody. So if you wanted to know if they came through, this is a clear message on that. This can also be sort of like a Saturn return energy. So some of you may be finishing up a really key contract or lesson in your life. And you can look at the different ages and see where your Saturn return falls. But oftentimes when we're going through one of those returns, it's very challenging. But that would be sort of what we were talking about at the beginning, where things get a little murkier before they get really, really light. So this moment in time is going to be very important. Even if you're not in a return, it's maybe more of a little mini lesson that's coming back, a karmic, energetic return where you're going to have a breakthrough. So push through this moment in time, no matter how difficult it might feel or seem. And it says, own your own mastery. And we have the 8 of Pentacles. And after this, even though it's in the opposite direction, this is the Apprentice. The Master would be the 3 of Pentacles. We did see that in the energy for some of you this week already. So that's good for those of you that had that. I think it might have been water. But all of us are kind of on that path of finishing and like graduating. There's no repeating here. We're not going to go back and repeat a grade. You're graduating. So it's healthy for you to get through something. Once you get through this, you won't have to repeat it. The big message for health is overcoming the limits, the addictions, or the fears or anxieties of your family. And I actually put that in the channel messages where I said that you're not going to be stuck doing the same thing as your family. This is your chance to basically change it up. Yeah, you're not destined to repeat the mistakes of your family. So please release the doubt. Okay? Do what's healthy for yourself. Emotionally right now, getting control of that is going to be key. Making sure that you're not feeling that sense of malaise and you're not feeling highs and lows that are difficult to navigate, because you've got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of healing that's readily available, and there's a chance for massive movement on the horizon for you. So I feel like the more you can get this and this in check, the sooner things start to get really awesome for you. Okay. Let's look at wealth, career. You guys know what to do on this life path. So if you're retired, this is what you want to do with your free time. If you're a student, it's what you want to create in your career path. If you're mid-career, it's, are you happy with it? Some of you are the lone wolf. This is actually one of my spirit totems. Personal totems is a wolf, and a gray wolf at that too. So with this, what I like about wolves are they have core, like instinct is a primal version of intuition. It's baked into certain reflexes in DNA. Like we have reflexes, we have instinct, and we have intuition. So this is that sort of animal brain. I want you to trust it when it comes to what you should be doing with your life, because we're going to take this beyond just work, beyond just wealth. This is purpose, life purpose. So you know on a core level, this is good for me, this is not so good for me, this is the right path, this is not. I want you to trust that as you navigate contracts. If it doesn't feel right, it probably won't be. Several of my experiences in negotiations, I knew sitting either at the table or walking outside or whatever it was, I thought this isn't right. And even sometimes the devil looks like this, really attractive, and it wears a different face of someone that we know. It's not always. I like this card because it's not that ugly creature on a throne with the chains. A lot of times it's a temptation. This looks good, but you know it's not. So I want you to trust that. Look beyond the pretty facade and go here and think, does it feel right? Am I sure about that? and you're going to be okay. All right. So trust your instincts. Even if that means walking a different path alone, you'll be better off for that. You'll find your pack later, your chosen family. Okay. So the wolf is here to say sometimes the path least taken or less traveled is the best path for you, because you're going to find some cool things on that windy path, and you might find a really cool pack of wolves, your spiritual chosen family. Okay. When I'm looking at money, I do think that there's a short-term opportunity that may not pan out. I want you to look beyond that. Maybe it's a short-term gain, but long-term, it's not taking you where you need to. Are you learning? Are you expanding? Are you being supported? If you're not, you're holding yourself back or you're being held back. Okay. Don't limit yourself. And don't be afraid to stand up and ask for more. Okay. Let's move on. Remember, you can infuse it with love, because that was the message for having difficult conversations. So starting with, and I talked about this before, you can say, I'm very invested in this, but I need more support here. What are we going to do to fix that? Make it something where you can even say, I know you're really resourceful and I know you'll figure this out because we've talked about it, and sort of like put it on their lap and make them feel like they've got to live up to your expectations too. All right. Let's look at love. Interesting. So we have the spirit guardian of winter and retreat. So the wintry energy reminds me a lot of people that have kind of like blocked themselves off, right? And the snow globe that we see here sometimes is on the inside looking out or outside looking in. Even retreat, it's very Six of Swords energy. So for some of you, it's been difficult to reach someone that you've lost. You could feel like just a sense of nostalgia. How can we get back to that dreamy moment? But for some of you, even when they were living, it was sometimes like you were shaking the snow globe and thinking, why can't I be like that? Why is this different from this dreamscape here? So one thing is that you're free from that now, and the whole world can be your snow globe. It doesn't have to be that sort of you on the outside looking in. The other thing is what I was just talking about with spirit, that's how they feel now. So because some of you have varying degrees of intuition, which you can, by the way, continue to improve upon and connect with them better, but there could be frustration from the other side and also from you on how to get through that barrier. I just want you to trust that the love that you send is received. And if you had a strong bond with someone before they left this planet, it still exists. It's still there. Just because you can't see it and hear it doesn't mean that it's not there. When you start to develop that more, which you can, and you will if you work on it, you will see that. You will be able to kind of connect with that, and it gives you a sense of freedom on some levels. When people pass, it's still hard, but when you start to see them in dreams and you even hear them or they come and visit, it starts to, you just realize it goes on and on. It continues. That was one piece the old movie from the 90s got right, Ghost, where Patrick Swayze says all the love or whatever, all that stuff goes through. He's right. So you take the love, you take the lessons, you don't keep the money, you don't keep the titles. None of that matters. The power stuff doesn't matter as much. Karmic stuff, you take the baggage too. You take that karmic baggage, but the love is there. And if it wasn't there, use your time and energy to reinvest somewhere else. Just because they weren't able to connect with you doesn't mean that others won't. Other people can get through that. You have to kind of let the guard down. It's kind of like Frozen, right? The older sister had to learn how to just be free, right? And open up a little bit. All right. So other messages. We're going to look at this on 3 levels, even though I'm looking at it from ancestry. It's different, actually. We're going to do a about face on this one, and I need to write it down. So because I have different people looking for different messages from the dead, this is where I'm going to do it in love. So I'm going to look at it for those of you that lost a partner. I'm going to look at it for those of you that lost a parent. And then I'm just going to do a broad one for family. It could be brother, sister, etc. And then another one for friends. So I'm going to pull 4 cards for messages from these different departed people. So give me a second here. We're going to start with those of you that lost a partner. So this would be husband or wife. This is a good card to come through for that. This is the 6 of Swords. So there are a few death cards. 6 of Swords, 4 of Swords, death. Judgment, ostensibly even the Fool on some levels, but this is good. But what we see here is you're firmly between 2 points. So 3 of the crows or ravens are here, 3 are here. The card is reverse, which is saying you're holding on probably more than they are. This is a very good card to pull if someone asks me, is my partner stuck? No, they are moving on. They are on that journey, but they won't move on until you've let them on some levels. So they're stuck. The only sticking point is you holding on. So they're in that journey back and forth, but they can go to the star energy when you fully understand that they're not going to be gone. When they cross over completely, it just allows them to more completely heal. So I see them firmly on their journey. Many of them may be at the initial stages of soul, sort of going through the sort of like soul review. Some of them are going back and forth, but I feel like there's an opportunity to even go further if you just say, I love you and release you. I had to do this with my dad when he first passed away. I had to tell him because he was haunting my mom and myself in my dreams. And I just said, if you love me, move up to the next level. It's okay. And he shot up into the sky like Neo in the Matrix. My release pushed him through to the next level. I literally saw that. He still has work to do, but it pushed him up another level. So it was hard and I felt bad, but in spirit, I'm different. So I just basically, I said, you have to move on. It's okay. So I felt sad in the moment, even though I'm an intuitive and I knew it would be okay. And then it was better. And he hasn't gone anywhere. He still bothers me all the time. So I'm just telling you, like when you push, when you light the candle, when you send them a prayer, when you do that, it'll just continue to strengthen that, because that's unconditional love. That's saying, I love you enough to let you go. Plus, by the way, give me some space. Let that person go, okay? So it's hard. If you are really, really close to someone, it's hard because it feels like a piece of you, but you are still whole, and they will be too. And it just takes a little time to kind of fill in the missing pieces there, okay? But they're okay. They're not stuck, but they could go further if you let them, and that's the message from them. And I also feel like there is visitation, there is back and forth, okay? So the connection is wide open. Do a little bit of communication with them today, especially. Send them love, let them go, and ask them for guidance, because this is also a navigation card. So if you're trying to make some big decisions in your life, ask for signs and symbols in jokes and in symbols that you would know, okay? All right, let's look at for parents now, even though we talked a little bit about it. Some of you were just really connected to the person that you were married to or that you were partnered with or loved. Now let's look at a parent and see if there's any messages for missing, or I should say parents that have transitioned. We have really clear, a lot of air energy coming through today, but we have the Justice card. Some of your, there's certain things that some of you are sorting out with your parents, even now in death. And it's sort of like, this could have been better. I wish I had said this. Why didn't you do this for me? The cool thing here, though, is that the parent on the other side sees it from your perspective more so than they did before. They know the difference between right and wrong. They know where they've failed. And now there's a chance. And they're kind of waiting for you on this to decide. Are you okay with where you're at, or do you need more healing or work to happen? Because they can continue to heal and help you from that side. For those of you that had a really strong parent, someone who was sort of like very keen on right and wrong and black and white, this is them personified, like a strong grandma. Well, some of you might have been raised by a grandma actually, or mother here, but I definitely get strong maternal energy coming through with this. You may be feeling like, would they be happy with where my life is right now? You don't need their permission anymore. But to me, they're actually not looking so much. It's like, look within, what we talked about earlier. Look within and see if you're happy. You're the one that holds the scales to justice anyway. The cool thing with both of these is I'm not seeing a trapped energy. Both of these are kind of reliant on what you want from them. Actually, there's a lot more movement for partners that have passed than parents. The parents are making sure that things are okay for you too. So there's a lot more attachment on that one. Ask for what you want, but ultimately justice tells me that it's balanced. Seek out your balance, find what you need, and do the right thing. It's a very parental thing. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Have you done this? Are you doing this? It's kind of like they're counting all their fingers and making sure that you're doing all these things. So just take care of yourself, okay? Let's look at just family in general. So anybody that's not a partner or a parent. You'll have a chance at the end to ask again a special message from your departed after the meditation. So general family. Every time I pull the Nine of Pentacles in every deck, it's like reversed. So the Nine of Pentacles is good. And again, there is this financial freedom, I think, is what your family member is wishing you. They're also saying you can be a little stubborn, but they're very proud of what you've done, what you've built without them, or on this part of the journey. The fact that we have this cool little, what is it? Maybe a hawk or something there, is basically saying that just like all of these, we have an element of air in them, even the earth ones there, because of the bird. So communication, like we have birds in the first and the last one here. You still have the capacity to tap into that energy if you want it and ask for help. They're also, it seems like they're guiding you to good financial opportunities. So if you've been suffering because someone didn't do their job on maybe the will, or there was no money, or there was debt, feels like they're trying to make up for that by bringing in new opportunities. And they just want you to be happy and independent, okay? Finally, for those who have lost a friend, this is the one part of it that's going to be different because it's not a typical weekly. All right, for those of you that lost a friend, it's harder. With friends, it does hit harder because I would say, like, we get to choose our partners usually, and we not always. There are some places where that's kind of assigned, but usually you get to choose that. Friends, you almost always get to choose. So the Tower, it still feels a little fresh from both perspectives here. And it's hard. That's harder because for some of you, you may have leaned more on that than you ever did other parts of your life. This friend could also be a furry friend in your life for animals, because we have these cute little squirrel there and all of the lovely butterflies here. I do take a sort of heartening note from those butterflies. To me, that shows me, we didn't get one card here that showed me something scary. I think the Tower one is where there's the most movement and the freshest wound. But the fact that there are butterflies interspersed throughout the Tower tells me that transition and transformation is happening. It's just going to take a little bit longer for the friend in your life. So take your time. It's a new beginning, and it's a new you when that friendship kind of ends, right? So there's some things that they've left behind for you, though, when I'm looking at all the little nuts that are squirreled away here. For some of you, you may find something, you might stumble upon something that reminds you of a beautiful moment, and that's really just going to kind of help you realize that that connection's still there, still valid. Okay. All right, let's wrap up here, and then we'll go into the meditation in just a moment. And by the way, now that we've done all of that, retreat makes a lot more sense, because everything here is about, sometimes when we grieve alone, or we're pulling back, or we feel that isolation. The good news here is almost all of the cards showed movement. The only one where I want to see maybe a little bit more peace is with the friendships. So work on that. And remember, like I said, you can talk to them. They'll hear you. The healing will be there. We'll do something special in the meditation to help with that. Your final card, your destiny card, finding sanctuary, opening to your spiritual source. So we kind of see, this is almost like that rebuilt tower. We just saw the tower that was kind of completely deconstructed. Now we see the reconstructed one here, and we see it popping out of the clouds like a spire from a castle. So for you, go higher and realize, again, higher in thoughts, higher in imagination, that there's going to be this potential for something greater, something that you probably couldn't even imagine. So hold out for the gold at the end of the rainbow, but remember that that rainbow might be like right in front of you, right? So I'm seeing some optimistic messages here. And the sanctuary for you is also about finding a place where you feel safe. So if where you work doesn't, or where you live doesn't, or whomever you're with makes you feel unsafe, you want to find a place where you have that sanctity, that sanctuary, and it feels a lot better for you. Okay, cool. All right, let's get into the next portion here, which is going to be 2 final parts. I'm going to help you here in just a moment with a meditation and a singing bowl, and then at the very end, or the pyramid, sound bath basically. But after that, if there's one final question, if you want to ask those who have passed something, this is going to be less about you. So if you have a message or a question for the person that's passed, I'll pull a final card to just see what the general questions are and like what the energy is for that. So save it until after the meditation, write it down now so you don't forget, and then we'll take a look at your final question. And this time it could be also about like dealing with death or transition or grief, but since the main focus today was really about the departed, then we're going to look at that. I'm going to let you vote right now on the singing instrument that you'd like me to play. So let's see, what instrument should I play? And I have a crystal pyramid, and I'll show you these in just a second. By the way, the meditation only lasts about a minute or 2. I'd love for you to stay. A lot of times we lose some people. Stick around for that final question, and then we'll wrap up. All right, or we can do singing bowl. All right, so the crystal pyramid looks like this and sounds a little bit like that, kind of like chimes. So that's a crystal pyramid. And then for anybody who's watched my channel for a while, I also have a purple singing bowl, which is attuned to the third eye. Looks like this. And sounds like that. Okay, so you get to choose which one you'd like me to play today. And I'm going to go ahead and put the poll up right now. All right, so those are the 2 instruments. And then while I do that, here's your poll. Just a quick reminder, if you would like to follow me on social media, it's at Nicholas Ashbaugh. And only thing that's different is Twitter at @Ashbaugh. I haven't asked yet, but by the way, please consider hitting the like and subscribe. I should say that a lot more than I do because my channel growth, I'd love to see it kind of continue, and we'll keep doing Q&A stuff and things like that if I can hit more milestones. And I can do more videos because it just allows me to have more to give back to you. So feel free to, if you've never subscribed, subscribe, and definitely hit the thumbs up if you enjoy what you're seeing. And if you enjoy and you'd like to give back with the SuperSticker, or if you'd like to join, you can do it with this icon. And you can also participate later if you'd like. All right. So this singing bowl looks like it's winning today. That's cool. We haven't played it here on the collectives for a while. So we're going to do a singing bowl. Thanks for everyone that voted. And let me pull this back. For today's meditation, we really want to open up to healing and healing any sort of energetic wounds from the past, any sort of unfinished business. I want to make sure that you can really be successful and get past that. So for the purpose of meditation, I really like that we had marigolds coming in today. And I'd like to imagine that today we could make an offering, and we're going to walk through. You can imagine it can either be a cemetery, or there could just be this place that you want to go and you're going to make an offering. Maybe it can be just an altar, or it could be, let's imagine it that way. It's a little less spooky. So let's imagine there's an altar with a picture of the one that you love. And we'll be bringing marigolds, of course, but there could be other things that you want to present to them. Allow for this to be the sort of final release if there's any sort of karmic energy that you're holding on to. And then if you're trying to make a connection, allow this to be a way for you to connect and to send love and to experience what it is that you need to see. To help facilitate this as well, I want you to imagine that there's this beautiful, like a little pond in front of you. At this point, you can close your eyes. Take a moment, if you haven't already given your offering, to go ahead and do that, to put something there at the altar, to light a candle. And when you're ready, make your way to this little pond where you can see reflections from the sun, gently sort of creating this beautiful movement of light on the surface and beneath the surface. You can also see the reflections of the trees above you, again, rippling on the surface. And as you get a little bit closer to the surface of the water, you see yourself. your own face. As you take a few deep breaths and conjure up the memories and the thoughts and the feelings of this person, you can see them reflected in the water. When you turn around, they're not there behind you, but they are reflected in the water. And this water has magical properties. It's going to allow you to see and also to hear those who have passed. So if you'd like to, you can touch the water. You can kind of reach the hand of that person, feel them for a moment. And I want you to just think and feel and send the messages that you need to say. This is your space. For any of you that want to let go of somebody, know that if you see any connections, any sort of energetic bonds between you and that other person, in the water, you can just move your finger and the ripples will remove the cords. And you can just send thoughts of love and you can watch that image fade. But if you want the person to stay and you want to kind of reconnect with them, the same thing works. You can kind of reach out and touch the heart and re-establish a connection. This water works however you would like to. It's a beautiful, pure sort of spring water that's in there. So this is your time and your space. I'm just going to facilitate this with a little bit of the sound bowl here. So I just want you to close your eyes, listen to the singing bowl here, and imagine that it's going to amplify whatever sort of thoughts or intentions that you have for this departed person. Take a deep breath. Say whatever it is that you need to say. And gently touch your heart, touch the heart of the person on the reflection, and bring your other hand back. And seal the connection now. And know that whenever you want to, you can come back and listen to this meditation and reconnect with that person, creating a safe space for both of you to communicate and to continue to do the healing. That person really is there to help you in this point. It helps them as you help yourself, as you kind of move on and allow for that healing to take place. One last card, and then I'll move on to the thank yous. For this final card, if you had a question that I didn't answer, that you want me to check in with that person, I'll do that. So think about your question. And let's see what the answer is. You're not alone. We have the Hermit card here. So they're acknowledging, for many of you, there's an acknowledgement of this feeling of isolation. With the Hermit, just a reminder that the Hermit, and the cool thing on this one, by the way, the lantern is on the hill and this person's kind of like floating in the air. So the light is within. You are, again, revealing a part of yourself that you didn't know you had because this person's absence in your life. You're carrying their light with you in the love that we, and the sort of meditation that we just did. And the story continues on through you. That's the cool thing. So, I just told the story of my grandfather that came across from Italy. So same sort of thing here. Like I'm living on, like I look a little bit like him, and and I have some of his same passions, and I remember his stories. So he lives on through me. This person's living on through you. And also, you're more like, for those of you that had a negative experience with someone, Don't mute your light. You are brighter than you give yourself credit for. So if there was someone who limited you, then you have a lot more perspective and a lot more potential than they ever understood. So this is your time to come into your own. Either way you slice it. There's a hidden star within. And so it will get better. There is a light at the end of the tunnel and you carry it. So keep on keeping on, okay? This is a good card. If you're looking, I'm really not answering this in a traditional sense. Normally this is an open question, but as a yes/no question, this is about a little bit more of inward work. And I still think that works for this particular type of question. And not everyone's going to understand where you're at or what you're going through, but you're going to be okay. All right. All right, let's go now to the thank you portion. I always like to say welcome to new members and also thank anybody that was willing to share a little bit of resources with me. So I just want to say thanks. So first things first, I'm going to say thank you to the new members that joined. Looks like we have quite a few that came through between yesterday and today. So I'll try to go through at a decent click here. So new members that have joined either yesterday or today. We have D. White Quills, Patrice W., Natalie Antonello, I am, Kelly Callahan, Sandy Herbert, Perul Aurora, Jenny Tidewell, Jessica S., Bonnie Carver, The Mad Monica 11, Melissa Grant, Goddess of Gaia, Tree Bird. Welcome to all the new members. You will be able to ask questions, like I said, coming up this Friday. I'll post something on the member channel or the community channel there a little bit later. And now for all of you that gave back today, I'll try to, again, go through this at a decent pace, but I see we have a lot, and that means a lot, by the way, because that'll help me I'll do more of these collectives if you like them. All right, so Ruby, thank you so much. Touche B336, Tarot, good to see you again. Phoebe, Alona, welcome. Let's see, Ria, Chioko, Sarah, Regina, Jenny Tidwell. Let's see. I don't know if I can say this, if it's Yulia or Lulia. Thank you. JMH, Ultra Sheila Rose Smith, AB, Maya Rodriguez, Adapts Training Meditation, etc. Thank you. Agnes, Amy, Joanna, Jody, Agnes, again, thank you. Jesse Lou, Brad, 72K. Tina, thank you so much for the 50. I appreciate that. Susie S, Dina M, yes, Misty Creates, Christy Hatfield, ON, Paula Hensley, 2 in a row, thank you. I'll Teach You Anime, Gara Means War, Patrice again, thank you. Mary Jo Poole, let's see, San Maki, Beverly, Claudia, Melissa, Carisha, let's see, Robin Arizo, I don't know if I got that right. Thank you. Penny Williams, Bianca, Perul, Kathy Aaron. Let's see, Lorna. I think that's Lorna. Yes. ZM, Rosemary, Wendy, Treebird. Cool name, by the way. It's like Treebird. 62 and Sunny, Jen Doyle, Carmen A. Let's see, Fab OG 42, Stella Morris, Ms. Moses, Lynn, Shay, Amitabha, and Mindfulness with Natalia. Thank you to Stella as well for the other 50. I'll do my best to scan through. I think I got a few of those today and I appreciate it. And I know at the very beginning, there was someone that did 100, which is probably one of the all-time best. So thank you so much for all of those contributions today. It means a lot, and it's going to help me set up some additional time for the next reading, which is going to be the Q&A. So much appreciation to everybody that was able to give back. I will read through all of those later. And for anyone that does a super, a super thanks, I will make sure to heart that later. But thank you, everyone. I have to kind of go through it. I do see the amounts, but I can't always call it out as I'm doing it. Much love and light. I will be back again tomorrow for Aries, starting off the new month. I can't believe I'll be reading for December already, but starting with Aries on Monday, and then I'll do Taurus on Thursday, and then I'll be doing the special reading, the Q&A on Friday, and then another collective next Sunday, and then I'll put the whole schedule up on Monday so that you don't have to hear me fumbling about to try to remember the dates. That's what I'm going to do this afternoon. So thanks, everyone. Much thanks to Dakota and Maria for helping, and we went a little bit over today, so I'm going to wrap it all up now. Lots of love and light to all of you. Have a great Halloween and a great month ahead. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.